We're Batman at 89. Greetings, citizens of Gotham. Welcome to Batminute 89, the show where we do Gordon every episode, every minute, and also discuss Batman. I am your host, John Parker.
I'm also hoping to do Gordon, and I'm Niall McGowan.
Yes, and we are joined for one final time by Dan Kampling.
Oh, that's my new name now? Oh, well... and hopefully
it's got to be.
Hopefully just final for this week. Hopefully you can, guys.
Yeah, we'd love to have
guys,
you back.
Please write in. Please request for co-hosting this whole show. Please. No. This is your guys' show. No.
Hey, we could always have a third host. That's fine. Look out for that coming next year with Batman Returns.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It has been.
No. It's all good fun. No, this isn't. Yeah, to me, this isn't work. This is fun. As my dad always said, you don't go to fun every day. You go to work. Well, this day I'm going to fun.
Words to live by there. That's great. So we're having fun here on it's minute 27 of Batman. I can't believe we're at 27 already. This is crazy. But the minute begins with even more comedy bullet sound effects straight from some kind of sound bank, and it ends with Gordon possibly about to bite the bullet himself.
Ooh, you got a real nail biter in this minute, but yeah, I kind of when you're talking about the sound effects and everything, it almost makes me wonder if this movie kind of had like a quick post-production like sound edit deal, because like you said, there are a lot of very recognizable sound effects that you hear there. And usually sometimes when you hear, sound effects you can recognize, that means like, okay, these are almost like the temp ones before we get like, okay, we're going to go get some real proper ones so it doesn't sound too familiar. But probably for this one with their short, with their relatively short schedule from like, I think it was October or maybe September to pretty much December, it was like it seemed like during that time it'd be just like, okay, that's good enough, let's go with it. I don't care if every single gun sounds like Dirty Harry's gun, just go with it.
Yeah. I kind of thought it might have been intentionally to make it, we're talking about like the influence of like old film noir. And like we're saying that this is a bit like White Heat and stuff, because it sounded like so old-fashioned, the sound effect. It might have been like, well, it's supposed to be a deliberate hark back to, it's like those movies. We're using the same kind of sound effects. Like that's the level we're going for.
And also just a lot of borrowed stuff because, for a future minute, when like the hatch opens for the Batmobile, or maybe it's the shields going on, it's like, oh, those are the deals from Alien, where they can move things around with, and then with that, I was just like, I remember watching Aliens, and I heard that, I was like, that's the Batmobile. It's like, actually, no, this came first. I don't remember. But again, Oh no!
It's like, I can imagine like James Cameron like going to watch Batman and just like sitting looking at Access Chemicals and being like, this place looks really familiar. And then, like, later on in the film, hearing those sound effects, I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell?
Because I want to say that I think the editor, Ray Lovejoy, he also did Aliens. I think he did. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so it might have been just like, oh, this is a lazy day. It's
like, we got a locked date for this movie. I want this out summer of, summer 20, or June 23rd. It's, and I'm just usually sometimes with movies, that's a bad sign where it's like, oh, you already got the release date set. Okay, let's get this done. And I think that's probably probably another reason why Burton's always kind of like, oh, that movie was a nightmare for me. Cause not only do you got to deal with a release date set and everything, but you also got to deal with John Peters bugging you about, hey, can we get some Nikes, can we get some Nike product placement in here? We just signed a deal with them. Can we do that?
I get the impression Tim Burton doesn't work like that. He seems like the kind of guy who just does what he wants to do when he wants to do it. He doesn't want a schedule in place.
Unless it's like a good joke, like in Dark Shadows, where Johnny Depp sees the McDonald's golden arches. It's like, yeah, that's the only way I would do it. I'm just glad they didn't pressure him to be like, oh well, there's a deal with McDonald's for Batman Returns. Can you sneak that in there somewhere?
Yeah,
Like, no.
I'm very happy that with the sequel they basically let him have complete free reign.
And some people would argue with you, but hey, I like it because it makes these two films different. You didn't feel like you didn't feel like with God, boy, I'm really reaching out, or it's like, boy, when you guys get to start doing Batman and Robin minute by minute, you're gonna be like, God, didn't we just see this movie like a year ago with Batman Forever?
Exactly. They don't change much up at all. Like these really stand out as different. They're different movies and they're different for Batman as well.
Yeah. Oh, there's a complete world of difference between, particularly this one and the second one. It's just like the fact that it's the same creative team. Just they have like, no, it's a completely different cycle of this. Like, no, it's a sequel, but it's like it's set in a different friggin' Gotham almost. Like, it's just...
Right. But and then of course I guess that's a whole nother podcast to go like, okay, it's easy to be like, okay, whatever we did the first time, let's do something different the second time. But then when you get to the third one, that's when you're like, oh, I think I used up all my ideas in the last one. And I think that's probably a problem with Nolan's Dark Knight Rises, where it was a little like, it seems like familiar. Okay, you're talking about the League of Shadows again. And we all know that Tila Al Ghul was going to deal with it. It was like everything you expected happened. It was like, well, where's the surprises and stuff that you had in the other two?
That's always a problem with the third movie in any franchise. I mean, this is a bit off topic, I suppose, but I mean, they did it with like Indiana Jones. The second one was really different. People reacted quite negatively. So it's like, oh, well, the third one, let's just make it like the first one. Yeah. I love them all, I'll be honest. I even like Crystal Skull.
Yeah, I felt like that's how it was when I watched because I got like the whole trilogy of Indiana Jones, and I just remember I'd seen the second one beforehand, and then I watched Raiders. I was like, oh, Raiders, that was a pretty damn good movie. And then when even when I started watching Last Crusade, I was like, oh, the same font from Raiders shows up, and it's all slow, like they're doing that. I was like, and then when they showed him like actually at the college and stuff, and it's like almost like the same shot of him writing on the board, I was like, oh no. I don't know.
Although I will say, like my only beef with like Last Crusade is this that I think it's like I love it, but it's too silly. It's like the first one's got a perfect balance of like old fashioned kind of campy serial and just good well done adventure. The second one's a bit too dark at times, but still good. And then the third one's a bit too silly. It's just like, I'm not really feeling anything here. Like I know that he's going to be fine, and it's just like, it's just a bit too slap. Like the whole bit with the castles burning, and him and Sean Connery tied to the chairs, and they're all go like the secret door,
Dad,
and it's like,
Dad, listen.
Yeah, it's just. It's just like it's funny and all, but it's just like you wouldn't have had this in Raiders though. They would have been like, nah, it's a bit too silly. We'll have the Nazi monkey, but we wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. That was like 1 second, and it's like it's perfectly fine. But yeah, now it's the Raiders of the Lost Ark minute. Yeah,
yeah. Although handily enough, because we haven't even started talking about this minute at all.
So yeah, we should probably talk about the minute.
Good idea.
we should get stuck into this a little bit, yeah. So yeah, as I said, the minute starts. So the criminals are still having a shootout with the police there. Oh, so the criminal, there's one in this shot, isn't there? And I like the way he just decides he's had enough, and he casually walks off from the middle of the firefight, which is an interesting tactic.
Big mistake.
Oh yeah.
Again, and I think this was a trailer moment, and I think it's one of the most iconic bits of like walking towards the camera, and then Batman's off to the side of the corner, and then just throws his fist up, straight into the guy's face, and he's just down instantly like a sack of potatoes.
Oh, I loved that because I was watching it on loop. So if you've got it on loop, his little scream, hearing it over and over and over again, just made it hilarious. Like,
I do love as well when he goes down, and like you always get the thing of like the people like walking away from explosions without even looking at them. But Batman, he takes this guy out, but he does do a little kind of looks back just to see like, did I get him? Just make sure.
It's more like Michael Keaton going like, "Did that look okay? Did I actually hit him, Tim? Did that look good? Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. Let's move on."
Yeah, maybe he accidentally broke his nose or something.
Well, it could be. It's actually like a legitimate concern.
Because that actor, it's great when you see him get hit. He almost does like the fish face, like look. Like, okay, that's your acting choice. Go for it. I like it.
Well, it's another really cool shot of Batman there. The way he holds his pose as the bad guy falls to the ground. Because again, it looks like a comic book panel. You can see that Tim Burton's maybe sketched it out, with the storyboards and thought about a comic book kind of style.
And I think kind of like the other deals, like they're kind of keeping in mind how immobile some of the suit is, basically, with the like that's probably the only way that they could effectively make him do like a punch deal or something like that. It's like,
it is also like a very classic Batman kind of move as well. You can imagine him, as you say, in the comics and stuff, but again, it is just a perfect, like, one punch and the guy's down and he wasn't even looking at him. It's just like, oh, that's like, you look at it, it's like, yeah, that is Batman. Like, I'm sure there could be issues with the mobility of the suit and that's why they had to do it like that way and stuff, but it is also like, it's perfectly in keeping with the character. Like, that's the kind of thing that he does. So,
and didn't he do that a lot in the animated series as well? Because I want to say I do remember that move was a lot in there.
Oh yeah, there was ones. I think there's ones where he's like interrogating people and someone's coming up behind him, like running at him, and without even like missing a beat, he just throws the fist back, hits a guy in the face, and then he just goes back to interrogating and stuff.
Yeah, because I also think because I think in Batman Beyond he did that, like when he first fought off those Jokers, and like one of the last one comes up to him, but then he hits him with his cane. And then I think that there's a moment where like Terry does it as well. So it's like, oh, look at that. They're just, they're just like one and the same, which, if you saw the end of the series on Justice League Unlimited, you'll know why.
Oh yeah. That's a discussion for another podcast, but like, that's a thing. Like, I'm never a big fan of like, well, I guess who's related? It's like, no.
When I found out about that, and especially how they shoehorned the Phantasm in there, I was like, what?
But anyway, this guy though, Napier Hood with beard, he's actually like an interesting guy. Because I was like, oh, what's it going to be? Just another list of stunts. But though this fella is Rocky Taylor.
Rocky Taylor, the man who moonwalked his way out of a scene.
Yeah. Although it's an incredibly American sounding name. He's actually from Weybridge, Surrey, in England.
Guy with Rocky.
Yeah, but his actual name is Laurie Taylor. So I guess like maybe he almost like if we were to go out for the psychology of this guy, because like Laurie's I would assume someone says Laurie to me, I imagine like Laurie Strode from Halloween. It's like, oh, it's a girl's name.
Hugh Laurie.
So maybe he got a lot of stuff. Oh, yeah, Hugh Laurie as well. But it always sounds to me like, oh, it's a variation on Laura or something like that. So it could have been like, well, I'm gonna go. And people, maybe when he's a kid, he got made fun of and emasculated. So he's like, I'm gonna give myself the most masculine name I can possibly think of, and I'm gonna insist that they call me Napier Hood with beard, just so you know how damn manly I am. And I'm Rocky Taylor, and I mean business.
Yeah, of course, people think of Stallone Rocky, but I'm like, well, there's also Rocky Horror.
Yes. That's the complete opposite, of course, of the the very masculine.
But this guy though, like, he's an amazing career. Because apparently, as of today, he's still working today. He is the oldest stuntman in Britain. And he's 71 years old. No, apparently he's gone through, like, he's worked as both, like, performing the stunts himself, but he still is performing stunts himself. He was in, what was it? Like the last Tarzan film. Apparently performing stunts in it. And then he's, done coordination stuff. Yeah. But he's worked on a wide, array of stuff, like Fast and the Furious and Game of Thrones and Harry Potter.
God. He's in who is he in the Fast and the Furious? What's he? He must be an advisor. He's not being a stuntman for a character.
Yeah. He's also in he also did work for both Temple of Doom and The Last Crusade. So and apparently also he's in me and John always like to bring things back to because obviously they've shot this in Pinewood in England. So there's a lot of people who are in Doctor Who, and there's a lot of people who are in The Bill. And this guy was in The Bill, so But yeah, born 1946, and he's still working in stunts today. And it's like, that's amazing. It's like, you guy must be just in insane shape or something to keep going. Unless he's really just like depressed and suicidal, and he's just like, I'm keeping going until one of these stunts kills me. Like, I just need to, I won't do it myself, but I'm going to wait until something happens.
I was trying to kill myself when I moonwalked my way out of the scene, but hey, you know.
Oh dear. I wonder if he does that moonwalk thing as like in
breaking news. He invented the moonwalk. What?
It could be as well that like he has tried to get it in every film, but every single like film editor has seen it and cut it out, and he's just like that one guy like Ray Lovejoy didn't even spot it. It's like, what an idiot. It's like I just like to keep the editing team on their toes, and he just got right past them. So because actually bringing in like I consider it to be a problem with editing in this scene coming up right now. So we have this happens. You see Batman takes out this guy, and then we see Jack Napier run up a flight of stairs, and then in a very cool shot and a little nice sting of the Batman theme, Batman's right behind him.
Oh, I love that. With his dramatic cape, like swooshing.
Yeah, they said they had to, I think that was like one of the ones that they used a ballet dancer, I think they said, to like kind of help out, like kind of move around a little bit better.
Yeah, you can see that, I think. There's definitely been some coaching in the move, because it's not a normal way you'd move.
And it's, but it's also, it just bugs me in that, though. Like, we just saw Batman, he was over there, and now he's behind this guy. And it's like, has time passed? Or was Jack Napier, like, was he just... like Batman looked over and he's literally like right beside him already, or like what happened? Like what the editing seems a bit like something was cut here, something didn't happen right. And then again, because you see he's right behind him, and then it's like he doesn't appear again for another another couple of seconds. It's like, well, I thought he was right behind him. So and see that maybe it's the angle, because we see Nicholson's going up these stairs. And then Batman's behind him, but he's elevated. So is he on a different flight of stairs, or is he on the landing, or like what?
He's just tiptoeing his way on a pipe, basically.
That's what I thought. Is he on some kind of like, it's not quite a new flight of stairs, or it's not quite like the landing. It's like a little precarious thing that he's walking along for some reason. I didn't go to pipe. I just thought it's like, oh, it's just some kind of weird platform or something. But
I mean, it is Friday now, and it's the Friday episode, and Napier has been running since Wednesday, so he's probably pretty tired. So Batman's caught up with him. I think he's just used his grappling hook. He's caught up.
But yeah, and then we get a bit of Jack, and he makes his way up finally to the catwalk, the fateful catwalk, where we're gonna spend a bit of time here next week. But he then sees a sign plainly marked exit. And he's looking down, and the cops are prowling around.
Yes.
And he's hesitant. He's like, I'm not gonna... If it were me, I'd just be like, screw it. And I would just run for that door. Or at the very least, like, get down on all fours and, like, scooch across the catwalk. And just get out of it. Because, like, maybe they won't notice you. If you just duck down and, like, go across quietly, you might get away with it. But he seems to be like, he's going to go out that door eventually, but he's just... waiting for a minute for some reason.
He's got I guess the editor and the filmmakers, everything's like, oh, he's got his means of escape here, but we're gonna savor this moment a little bit, because now we see Gordon down below, directing his men to basically corner him, up until this point, and takes solid advice, be very careful.
Well, I think this is some more nice acting from Jack Nicholson here. He's putting in a bit of effort. Like he looks scared. Genuinely, it's really good. I guess he really enjoyed those perks in his contract, so he was making a bit of an effort. He loved those days off. He's like, fine, I'll give you a good scene then. Here you go.
Like, I'm quite thankful, because he goes across then, and then he once he spots that Gordon is sending the men up, he takes a moment to himself of like a little grin. He's like, I'm gonna just seemingly just for kicks. It's like, I'm gonna take out Gordon on my way out. Just
I was wondering about that, right? Why is his plan, I'm gonna shoot Gordon? Because surely he should be trying to escape. Priority one. My only explanation I could think of was, if he shoots Gordon, it's a distraction. And he takes Gordon out.
We also do know as well that he's impulsive. Like, again, like he shoved Eckhart that time, and that didn't end well for him. And it's like it could be that he's crazy, and it could be like everything's so erratic, and he's all over the place, and he's like, I've got to escape. I'm going to wait a minute, and it's like, he just has the idea of like, I could kill this guy now, and he hasn't thought it through. He's just like, I'm going to go for it, and
maybe, definitely.
I'm kind of thankful he does, because directly after this, as he's taking aim, we get what potentially is like the best shot in any Batman movie and the best music sting, which is it's just like I remember like rewatching the whole film before we started this project and been like, oh my god, that's so good. That's just, I thought this was my favorite shot of him, like jumping down from somewhere and gliding down, and then just that the Elfman score going into that like really dramatic. And Lance goes over, kicks the gun out of Napier's hand, grabs him, and then perhaps Jack Nicholson's finest line delivery of anything ever as well, of just Jesus, which is just fantastic. So,
I do love that, because he does seem genuinely shocked that this bat exists. He's like, he can't believe it.
But it's just like, here's Johnny, you can't handle the truth, you make me want to be a better man. All of them are out the window. This is his best line. Just Jesus. But again, it is just more like, it's, because we see afterwards, it gets cool with Batman very quickly in the next minute. But it is more the shock of just like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this guy in this suit has grabbed you. Like, what else are you going to say to him? So,
well, I love the way as well, as you said, Batman kicks the gun out of his hand. I found that an interesting choice. He could have grabbed it, he could have slapped it, he could have punched it. No, it just looks extra badass just kicking it.
But so I'm just going to put that, like, there's a couple of moments I will highlight as my favorite moments in the film. This is number one of them. So,
actually, I had a note as well about Napier's gun. Now, I know nothing. Again, I'm English. I know nothing about guns, so this is solely on the back of research. But Napier, throughout 99% of the movie, is using a gun called a Colt New Service, which I don't know. I don't think I've mentioned that before. But then, when you get this close up of him pulling the hammer back there, for some reason, it's a different gun for that one shot. That's a Smith & Wesson Model 14, apparently.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and I couldn't find an explanation for why they changed the gun for that one. Why would you do that? Does it just look cooler?
Well, I think this kind of ties into kind of what all you're saying about the, kind of like you notice like there was editing mistakes and stuff. Because I want to say that was like that whole descent and everything that he did to kick it out of his hand. I think that was part of a reshoot. Because because I think because there's like pictures and everything where it just looks like Batman just kind of takes him from behind and then grabs him and then he has him there. So because I think there are pictures where it looks like he's like almost like he's sneaking up behind him, like you would see in a cartoon or something. And maybe when they looked at that, they were like, oh, he looks too stiff there and stuff. And then I think they just reshot it so that they could do that. And probably with that, it's like, oh, well, we don't have the original gun prop, so if we can find something quick and simple, just as long as nobody's watching this movie minute by minute, nobody will notice.
Nobody's crazy enough to do that.
So like the 1980s were more innocent time of us like, no one's ever going to analyze things to this extent. We can get away with murder. Come on.
Until now.
Well, I mean, it was still a time where, VHS was a thing, but it was still a time when the movies would take a very long time to come out and still be relatively expensive.
Right, but this was like one of the first ones that this was like one of the first ones that was like, oh, the movie came out within just like pretty much by, I want to say Christmas, like it was at it was out on VHS and everybody was just like, oh wow, it's like it's still at the Dollar Theater.
I can guarantee though that in England it was probably another year back then. I didn't live in England at the time, so I'm not actually sure. But yeah, over here back then, it would take a long time to come.
I remember because it was a proper like event when the video came out. Then like this was the whole, and you still do get them trying to plug like available on Blu-ray, and it's like, dude, I can get it like now in my house instantly to me for no cost at all, really. So when it did eventually came out on video, like apparently my brother was always like bugging
whoever was, the video merchants, like, oh, when's Batman? When's Batman coming out? And then finally, the day it came, it was like one of the first movies that was like, oh, get it for $30 as opposed to $80. We could buy it. And apparently, when I would, it's kind of embarrassing saying this, but I don't care. I'm 28. I can say it. Apparently, when I was, a year or two old, I wouldn't say Batman. I would say Batbo.
I like that. That's good. That's going to catch on.
Yeah, Batbo. See, I can't even do my baby voice, so I'm not even going to try.
Batbo.
but yeah, and
well, from now on, in every minute, we're calling him
the
Batbo.
Batbo minutes. I was just going to further add that particularly that VHS is memorable for a lot of people for the Diet Coke commercial and the Bugs Bunny thing at the start. But I have to tell you that I guess when I was, I can't really quite remember how old I was, but I remember I was scared to actually put in the tape and watch it because I hated seeing that afterburner fire blow right into the camera and the sounds, no matter how low you turned it down, it still startled you. So for years, I was literally petrified of this movie. I would actually want to watch Batman Returns instead of Batman 89, which some people are like, oh, well, isn't that movie less appropriate for children? I was like, not for me. I loved it.
Yeah. I thought you'd have found that much more scary.
No, it was never, to me, Batman Returns was never scary, even when we saw it at the theater, despite a mishap at first, because this movie traumatized me for a little bit where I would cover my ears before a movie. They started the movie off on the wrong reel. I swear it was the Red Triangle Gang member blowing fire into the camera, and it startled me because I don't like loud bursts of noises when it's suddenly quiet and then something happens. Even now, I don't like that. But at the time, it was when you're about I would have been three or 4 years old at the time. It just that was really startling to me, and I would always do that, and then eventually I got over it, But once I saw the movie and I saw, okay, that's a bad guy that Batman's fighting and he's going to light him on fire too. And it's just fine. And yeah, when I did hear about the backlash with Batman Returns, kids were dragged out of the theater, kids were crying and kids were doing that. I was like, no, I loved every second of that movie because back then my standards were, okay, is Batman in a bat suit? Is he fighting crime? Is he driving around in a cool car? And is the bad guy's bad?
Yeah.
Yes. Then what are you complaining about?
that's all you need. No, I was the same. I was never really that scared of the movie because I don't know. I think I don't want to say my parents were irresponsible, but they basically let me watch whatever I wanted.
Cool.
So
that's good.
I would watch Aliens and Terminator. So Batman Returns, that just fit right in to me. That was.
Oh, my mom would draw a line. My mom would draw a line at RoboCop. But I would watch it anyway.
Oh yeah,
but
I think I said in our preview episode actually, RoboCop was the one as a kid. I could watch all of them, but RoboCop freaked me out. It was the scene where he gets shot at the start. That was hardcore.
Well, it's so amazing because when I saw it on network, because for years we recorded the network television version of it, and it was so weird because in that they actually put the music under it. It's like that scene, when he's remembering, it's that same music. And to me, I was like, oh boy, that is pretty disturbing, even when it's all cut down and stuff. And then when I finally got to be able to watch the R-rated version and then the X-rated version of it, I was like, this scene takes on a whole nother tone when it's not with music and stuff, it's almost comedic because it's like, oh, look, they stopped. Stopped because they ran out of ammo. And then they goes, does it hurt? Does it hurt? And kind of part of you's like, that's kind of funny, but not really. But I was just with the music, I was like, oh, that's terrible.
I don't know. As an adult, now I'm an adult, I can appreciate the humor in that. But I think as a kid, I was just like, oh my God, no, don't turn it off.
I don't know. It's the guy in the toxic waste that destroyed me. So
I got to admit, I was pretty surprised when I finally was getting around to that. Because actually in the TV version, Clarence just drives around him. He just literally circles around him. He doesn't smash into him and liquefies him, which I remember just seeing that for the first time. I was like, oh shit, that's what happened?
That's just so weird though, because like that's like, oh, it's prolonging his suffering as well. It's like, at least when he knocks into him, at least he's taking the guy out. This is like, no, he's gonna go on being this horrible melting monster.
See, that ultimately proves that TV censorship sometimes doesn't always work, because it's like, oh great, you just made it worse.
But anyway, about Batman.
Oh, there you go.
We will get back onto this. So Bob the Goon, yes, Bob the Goon pops out of nowhere here and saves the day. He's a good guy, right? I haven't got this all wrong. Bob's the hero. Anyway, he comes out of the shadows and puts a gun to Gordon's head.
Click.
Look, Bob is a good guy. Bob is like, he is my hero of the film. Like, I think I love Bob. All right, I'm gonna like everything about him. And again, we saw him at the beginning of the week. He was taking care of business. He was fending off people when Napier was trying to escape. And now, when Napier once again has got himself in the bother because of a stupid impulse to shoot Gordon instead of just getting out of there, Bob's had to step in again. So it's like...
yeah, what's the phrase? Bob's your
Saving
uncle?
the day.
It's all like, hopefully nothing. Although,
if only.
I will, 'cause every time Bob shows up, I like to get like a little bit of like, oh, here's a little tidbit. But with Tracy Walter, the guy who plays him. But I've seen it on his Wikipedia page, and this like, it irritated me slightly, because I think that he put this in himself. So it says, in Tracy Walter, he appeared in a small role with Clint Eastwood in the 1982 film Honky Tonk Man, and has coined the phrase "right cheer" as in right here, and then as well as make 'em bounce as in happy from the movie Raggedy Man. So he's claiming he's coined two phrases that I've never heard of.
No.
And
I've never heard of.
Yeah, I don't think you can just come out and just go like, that was me. I made up a phrase. I coined a phrase. Everyone says make 'em bounce, right? And it's like, no, what the hell are you talking about?
So are they not popular phrases in America?
I was gonna say nope. I can't honestly say I've said that, and I'm somebody from the Midwest too, and that sounds like something somebody would say around here, but no.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can popularize it now. You can spread it.
No, I'm still trying to work on Batbo.
Oh yeah, we're getting that one going. Definitely, we're bringing that to the UK.
Well, just be sure to mark that in my Wikipedia page.
But as we say, then we get this is our final shot of the week. But as we alluded to earlier, Bob shouts out, "Let him go, or I'll do Gordon," and it's like, things are about to steam up in the in Access Chemicals, let me tell you. Yeah,
that is very strange phrasing.
I do like actually Pat Hingle's reaction though, because he's actually like, he's standing still, but then when the gun cocks, his eyes have a little like, ooh, kind of like, oh, what's happening here? And he knows not to move, but his eyes dart over, and it's like, oh, this is so it's a nice subtle bit of acting there from Pat Hingle, but Then after this, though, the shot we get, but I'm going to try to tie this into, because it's the last minute of action we have for this. I'm going to try to set it up for what's coming next week, because the visuals of Batman grabbing Jack Napier at this angle are very reminiscent of the comic book The Killing Joke and the opening scene of that. And that's a thing we'll be talking about a lot next week. So if you're intrigued by that, tune in. So...
Well, I love the way as well. I don't know if he does this in the comic, actually, off the top of my head, but the way Napier looks over to Bob there, it holds on it. Yet another thing I felt looked like a comic book panel. I just love the way it lingered on his look for slightly longer than you normally might.
Well, again, we can get deep into the comic panel it's riffing on next week. So
yeah. I would just say, like, the last thing I'd want to say about when you guys were talking about Bob, I'm just so surprised at how many people have responded to that character so much over the years, because when I was growing up, I thought that the only reason why the character was kind of funny and memorable is because my dad's also name is Bob. So it'd be always like, oh, hey, hey, Bob Gunn, and all of his
Ah.
lines and stuff. But then like later on, but as I guess as they pointed out on the DVD, where he says like, oh, they even made an action figure of me. So hey, that says something. I'm like, yeah, you're right, because they did make one of you, and it's like, huh.
It's quite strange they never brought back like Bob or at least a reference to Bob off the top of my head in any of the later movies.
No, I think it's taken him a while to kind of get to like a cult status.
Right.
Because even like when we had on Gaz last week, and like he's a guy who, like he grew up with this film as well, but I don't think he has the same reverence for Bob, because he was kind of like, oh yeah, and this guy, I looked him up, what's his name? Bob the Goon. I was like, yeah, Bob the Goon, yeah, but we're big fans. Like, what? You got a problem with him? But yeah, I've looked on eBay since as well for the Bob the Goon toy, and
I had one.
He's out there, but there's a lot of him without his hat. I was like,
right.
Do you still have it though? Do
No,
you have it to hand?
I want to say like when we moved, I want to say like my brother left it at the other house. So probably at our old house, maybe that Bob figure is still sitting somewhere, waiting to be played with.
Yeah. But anyway, that's all. Like in terms of the action for this week, that's all I have myself. So unless John, do you have anything else you want to bring up?
No, that's all. That's all my notes. I mean, it's an exciting way to end the minute. It's almost like a Mexican standoff, because what's going to happen to Gordon? What's going to happen to Napier?
And have you got anything else, Dan? Because you've got the floor now, because this is your final day on this film. At least we'll have you back for the others, obviously. But if you want to bring up anything else to do with Bob the Goon or Batman '89 in general, then you have the floor.
I'll just say that I appreciate being on a show like this one, where we, instead of just being like, oh, we're only within the confines of the movie itself to talk through. It's been great going through my favorite scene of this whole, the bulk of my favorite scene of this whole movie. And I guess the only thing I could say is that just like hopefully in the future I'm going to be able to. I got a couple of ideas of what I'd like to do for a minute long format like this. Like I've been accumulating a lot of information stuff to share about Dick Tracy, the film, and I'd love to talk with a lot of people on that one. Hopefully tell them some things they didn't know. And then like another one that my cousin and I always talk about, Superman 2. And I'm always like, well, should we do Superman 1 first? I don't know if somebody else is going to do it. And he's just like, oh, no, I'm just a fan of Superman 2. I could only really talk about that one. I was like, okay, great. You can tell about everything you want to talk about with Superman the movie during the big long credit sequence. So hopefully one day in the future, we'll get around to that one.
No, that's a good choice, because Superman 2, I think, is a much, much better movie. And of course, you've got two different versions out there.
Yeah. We're going to just keep it within the confines of the Richard Lester one. And I'll point out like, oh, in the Donner one, you see this, you see that. It's kind of nice, but hey, this is actually a completed movie. This isn't like hey, we kind of got a couple scenes here and there, and it's not Blade Runner the final cut by any means. But yeah, I was like, yeah, it's pretty much a special feature part of it. But yeah, no, I would never say like, if they're just like, would you prefer this one over that one? Like, no. But I will save all those details for this broadcast.
I would say though, just because I do know that someone is in the works of doing like a Richard Donner Superman one, but like what you're saying about the opening credits, because like we had during credits week with us, so it was like, whew, it's like 2 and a bit minutes of credits. And I was like, oh my god! But that opening credits for Superman, it must go on for about 20 years. Like it's just by the end of it, he's going, you know what? I'm abandoning the whole format. This is a terrible idea. I'm out.
And I love the idea for the Dick Tracy one as well, because I haven't seen that for so long, so many years, and it's got kind of some ways a bit of a thematic and visual tie to Batman, I would say.
The funny story I could tell you that is kind of Batman related with this one was that I once read I think it was on the IMDb message boards, back when they still had them. Somebody was talking about how when they saw it at the theater, they were like, God, this movie is ripping off Batman so much. They were like, I swear, if I see Dick Tracy jump through a skylight, I'm walking out of the theater. And Sure enough, he does jump through a skylight, and he was like, "I'm done. See ya. I don't care how this ends." That's what he said. I just was like, "Oh boy," because even like when he said that, I was like, "Oh, you're tempting fate there."
To be fair, though, I respect him for sticking to his guns. It's just like, I said I was going, so I'm out.
I must admit, I have never walked out of a movie, but when I was watching Prometheus, there was a guy in front of me who he clearly wasn't having a good time watching Prometheus. And after about 30 minutes, he just went, "Oh, I've had enough of this shit," and just walked out of the film.
That sounds like most of the people I knew that went to go see that. Of course, I loved it.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't mind it. It was okay. It was quite good. I've watched it a couple of times.
The only film I remember having like mass walkouts during was Inland Empire. Because I just remember like in the middle, like even because that's like 3 hours, and even at like the 2 hour 15-minute mark, just seeing people going, "Nope," like I'm just like, can't take it anymore. I'm out. You beat me, Inland Empire.
So this is the David Lynch podcast.
I better call my girlfriend to come in on this one.
Well, thank you for joining us anyway here at Batman 89. It's been a great week. So make sure you stay tuned in, and then you'll see what happens. Because as you said, you've never watched the movie.
I know. I'm on pins and needles. This is me at 6 months old, going like, "What's going to happen next?"
And you, dear listeners, make sure you join us again next week, because we're back on Monday, where we will have minute 28 of Batman. And as usual, make sure to rate us and subscribe and review on iTunes. Send us messages on Facebook at our Batminute 89 Listeners Society. That's their little hidden group. So if you don't want all your friends to know that you're a weirdo who listens to podcasts that watch movies 1 minute at a time, that's the best place to talk to everybody. Or we're also on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr, also at Batminute 89. So yes, join us again next week.
Next time, exit Eckhart. As various villains vacate the vicinity, our resentful reprobate sees little recourse but to rub out our most derided rotund Roser. But how will a ricocheting round result in a ripped-up and at-risk rapscallion? On that dangling note, we leave you until next week. Same Bat Pod.
Different Bat Minute.